Hi everyone, this is Alex. I'm going to go over how to solve the Thermo Sudoku from the Trivia Tuesday question. So this is just my way of solving it. You may have found other methodologies or solved it in a different order than I did, but I at least wanted to show you one way of solving this puzzle. So to start out with, we can start with this 9 and this 9 here are going to force a 9 in this box into one of these two cells. But you can see the 9 can't go here because this is on the thermometer. And if we put a 9 here, we'd have nothing to put in the next cells on the thermometer. There's no digits higher than 10 that you can use in a Sudoku. So that means right off the bat, we've got our first digit as a 9 in this cell here. Next, we can focus our attention to the bottom row of the Sudoku and ask where are we going to put the 1 and the 2 in this row. So you already see the 1 and the 2 are filled in this middle box. So the 1 and the 2 can't go in these three cells, so there's actually only two locations where the 1 and the 2 can go, and that's in the two corner cells. So we can mark 1 and 2 as possibilities for those two cells. And therefore that's going to leave the digits 4, 5, and 8 as the remaining possibilities for the three middle cells of the bottom row. Now you can see we can eliminate some of those possibilities. So this cell here can't be a 4 from that cell up there. And this cell here can't be an 8, right? Because if this is an 8, we could make this a 9. Then we have nothing for the top of the thermometer. So this cell can't be an 8. The remaining 4 cells in the box are going to be filled with the digits 3, 6, 7, and 9. Again, we can eliminate some possibilities. So this cell can't be a 9 from that cell up there. This cell can't be a 3 because the bulb of the thermometer is a 4 or a 5, and the next cell's got to be greater than that. And it also can't be a 9 for the same reason we mentioned earlier. We'd have nothing to put in the top cell of the thermometer. So that cell's a 6 or 7. Then the top cell of the thermometer, for the same reason, we can eliminate 3, and then we can also eliminate 6 because the prior cell in the thermometer is a 6, and so the top of it has got to be greater than that. So this cell is just a 7 or a 9. Next, let's move our attention over to this cell. This is a pretty constrained cell. You can see it can't be 1, it can't be 2, and it can't be 3. It could be a 4 or a 5, but it can't be 6, 7, 8, or 9. So we can narrow that down pretty far. Then if we look at the cell prior to it on the thermometer, you can see it's got to be less than 5, and it's got to be greater than 1. And so the possibilities there are going to be 2, 3, or 4. But if we go back to the work we did earlier in this box, we know the 3 has got to be either in this cell or this cell. So it's somewhere in the middle row in this box. So that's actually going to eliminate it from this cell here because it's already covered somewhere in the row, regardless of which of these two cells it actually goes in. So this cell here is either a 2 or 4. Now let's look at this third column here. And just like earlier, let's ask where are we going to put the 1 and the 2? So if we look at this cell here, the 1 and the 2 actually can't go there because it's too far along the thermometer, right? So if we put a 2 here, we do a 1 here, you can't use a 0 in a Sudoku, so neither the 1 and the 2 are going to work here. Same logic applies here. It's too far. It's the third cell of the thermometer, so you can't put a 1 or a 2 there. This one we already know is a 4 or 5. So there's only 2 locations in this column where the 1 and the 2 can go. So let's mark those possibilities. Now sticking with this column, let's again ask, okay, where are we going to put the 4 now? So clearly the 4 can't go here because there's a 4 right next to it. It can't go here or here because that's the 1-2 pair. Can we put the 4 here? Well, to answer that, let's look back and ask what are we going to put in the previous cells of the thermometer? So we could use a 3 for this one, potentially. But then this one would have to be a 1 or a 2. And again, we already have the 1 and the 2 covered in this box. So actually, a 4 doesn't work here. So the only place then is this cell, which we knew was either a 4 or a 5. But in fact, it has to be a 4 because there's no other place to put a 4 in that column. So it's not a 5. It is, in fact, a 4. And that helps us resolve some of these previous cells on the thermometer. So this one can no longer be a 4 then. It's got to be a 2. And that's going to make this one a 1. And that resolves the other corner of the grid then has got to be a 2. Okay, so we're making good progress here. And going back to this column real quick, the last two possibilities for these two cells then are going to be, we've got a 5, 6 pair for those two cells. So let's mark that. Okay, next, moving on, let's focus on this box here. We've got 5 cells remaining. Let's ask where are we going to put the 1? Right, so there's already a 1 here in the top row, so it can't go in any of these three. Within these two, clearly it can't go in this middle one because that's going to violate the rules of the thermometer. We've already got a 2 before it, so you can't put a 1 here. Only place to put the 1 then is going to be in this location here, so let's mark that. And then let's ask the same question about the 4. We've already got a 4 here. That's going to eliminate 4 from these 3 cells in this box, so there's only one place to put the 4 in this box. That's going to be here. Okay, moving on then. Let's go ahead and focus on this box here. We've got 3 cells remaining. What are the 3 possibilities that we could put in these 3 cells? It's going to be 3, 5, and 9. If we look at this cell here, it can't be a 5 from this one here. And again, from what we did earlier, we know a 3 in this box is going to go either here or here. So the 3 is covered in this row. So this one can't be a 3 or a 5. So this one actually has to be the 9. And therefore we can eliminate 9 as a possibility from these 2 cells. So we've just got a 3, 5 pair in these 2 cells. Okay, so let's move on and let's look back at this box. There's 3 cells remaining. What are the 3 possibilities there? Well, it's going to be a 6, 7, and an 8. We can eliminate some possibilities there. So this cell here can't be a 6, and that one up there. This cell here can't be an 8 from the 8 up there. Okay, so we've eliminated some possibilities here. And then the next thing you might notice, going back to the 9 we just found earlier, this 9 and this 9, they're going to force a 9 in the top row of this box. So this one we know is no longer a 7. It's definitely going to be a 9. Okay, let's move on then. Let's focus on this thermometer. So the ends of the thermometers, you see there's 4 ends of the thermometers in the middle box. That's pretty interesting. Presumably the ends of the thermometers, they're going to be high digits. But let's just focus on this top right thermometer here, and let's ask what's the minimum value we could put at the end of the thermometer. To answer that, let's actually go back to the bulb of the thermometer, the start of the thermometer, and say, okay, what's the minimum value we could put here? So we can't put a 1 or a 2 from the ones down here. So the minimum value we could put here is 3. Then going into the next cell of the thermometer, what's the minimum we could do here? If we moved up from 3 to 4, that actually doesn't work because we got a 4 down here. So the minimum we could put here is 5. And then the next one, we can't move up to 6 because there's already 6 in the box. So the minimum we could put here is 7. And therefore the minimum we could put on this next one is 8. And that's the minimum. In fact, it must be an 8 actually because the only other possibility is 9, but there's a 9 right above it here. So this one in fact has to be an 8. And then working back on the thermometer then, this cell, we know it's got to be less than 8. It can't be 6 and it can't be 5. If it's a 4, that's also going to break the thermometer again, because if this is 4, 3, and then 2 or 1, again, are not going to work here. So this one actually has to be a 7. Same logic applies here. This one's got to be less than 7, and it can't be 6 or a 4, and it's got to be greater than 3, so its only possibility is 5. Here, this one's got to be less than 5, and at least 3, so we can't eliminate 4 as a possibility yet. It's either 3 or 4. But if we look at this box, and this 4 here is going to eliminate 4 from these 2 cells. So in fact, this one has to be a 4. It can't be a 3. And then there's only just 2 possibilities remaining for these 2 cells. That's going to be 2 and 3. The 2 here tells us which order that's going to go in. So this one is going to be a 3, and this one is going to be a 2. Next, let's turn our attention to this thermometer in the lower right. So what does the end of this thermometer got to be? It's got to be greater than 6, right? So it could be a 7, but it can't be an 8 or a 9 because those are already in the column. So in fact, this one has to be a 7. And that's going to force this one here to be a 6. So we can eliminate 6 as a possibility from this cell. We've got a 7, 8 pair in these two. And then this 7 actually helps us solve down here. We can eliminate 7 as a possibility. And the 8 also is going to help us solve down here, remove 8 as a possibility from this cell. So we got a 4, 5 pair in these two cells. That's going to eliminate 5 as a possibility here. So this one has to be an 8 in this cell here. Okay, and then if we look at this 8 and this 8, that's going to force an 8 into this middle column here in this box. It can't be here because of the 8 here. And it can't be here either because if we put an 8 here, that's going to force this cell to be a 9, but there's a 9 right next to it. So the only place to put an 8, therefore, is going to be in this location. This row still needs a 1, right? And it can't go here because of this 1. So the 1 is going to have to go here. And so we're left with a 5, 6 pair in that row. Okay, let's turn our attention to this column here. We've got 3 cells that need to be filled. Those are going to be 2, 4, and 9. This is an interesting cell because it's at the tip of the thermometer, right? So clearly it can't be 2 because that's too far along the thermometer. Can it be 4? Well, no, because you see the bulb of the thermometer. It can't be a 1, 2, 3, or a 4. So 4 is just too low to put the end of this thermometer. So actually this one can only be a 9. And that means this one can't be a 9. And same with this one also can't be a 9. So that's going to be a 2, 4 pair in those two cells. In those two cells right there. Let's move over to this thermometer here. So this one's a 5 or a 6. So we know that the cell prior to it is going to have to be less than 6. But we know it can't be a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 5. So the only possibility in this cell here is going to be a 4. And then again, we can ask what's the bulb of the thermometer? Well, we know it can't be a 1 or a 3. So the only possibility for this cell here is going to be a 2. So then with the 5, 6 pair here, there's only one spot to put the 8 in this box. So that's going to go right here. Okay, next let's look at this thermometer here. So the tip of the thermometer is a 5 or a 6. Okay, so before the 5 and 6, it's got to be a number less than 6. So what can it be? Well, it can't be a 1. It can't be a 2. It could be a 3. It can't be a 4. But it could be a 5 still. So now we've got a 3, 5 pair in this column. So there's only 2 cells remaining, which are going to be an 8 and a 9. And we can see from this 8, it's going to be resolved. So this one's going to be, therefore, a 9. And this one's going to be the 8. Okay, so we can use that information now. So this 9 and this 9 are going to force a 9 into these two cells. But the 9 here tells us it's got to go at this thermometer here. The 8 then, with this 8, is going to push an 8 into these two cells. The 8 can't go at the bulb here because then we'd have nothing to put in the middle cell of this thermometer. You can't use 8.5. So then we know this one's going to have to be an 8. Okay, that 8 is going to solve this 7, 8 pair down here. So this one's going to have to be 7, and therefore this one is going to have to be an 8. Let's look at the tip of this thermometer here. We've got the 5, 6 before it, so it's going to have to be greater than 5. And it can't be 7, 8, or 9, actually. So this one will have to be a 6, which means this one's going to have to be the 5. That solves the 5, 6 down here. So this can no longer be a 5. This has got to be a 6. This 6 and this 6 are going to push a 6 down into one of these two, but because of this 6 is going to have to go in this location here. How about the bulb of this thermometer. So it can't be a 1 and it can't be a 2. So it's got to be at least a 3, which means this has got to be greater than 3. So it can no longer be a 3, which means it's got to be a 5. And that's going to solve the 3-5 pair down here. So this has got to be a 3. This has got to be a 5. That's going to solve this 5-6 up here. It's going to have to be a 6. Okay, next let's look at this column here. There's only 2 digits remaining as possibilities. So that's going to be a 1 and a 3. And so the only 2 possibilities remaining here are going to be a 5 and a 7. But we know from the 5 over here that this is going to have to be the 7, which is going to make this one a 5. Okay, this 5 and this 5 are going to push a 5 down here. And then we can also see that this 7 and this 7 are going to push a 7 over to this location here. So there's only 2 remaining possibilities for these 2 cells. That's going to be a 3-4 pair, which it looks like we can't resolve quite yet. But the next thing we can see is this 5 here actually is going to solve the 4-5 pair at the bottom. So this can no longer be a 5. It's going to have to be a 4. This is going to be a 5. This actually we know is no longer a 9. Whoops. It's no longer a 9, and it's no longer a 6 either. So it's either a 3 or a 7. But with this 5 and this 5, that's going to move a 5 into these 2 cells here, and we know it can't be here from this 5 right there. So this is going to have to be a 5 at this location. And let's look at what are the remaining numbers we need in this column. So it's a 3, a 7, and the last one is going to be a 1. So this one can't be a 1 or a 3, so this one will have to be the 7. And that's going to make this one going to have to be the 3. And we can move, therefore, the 1 to this location. This one with this one is going to push a 1 to these 2 cells. It'll have to be at the bulb of the thermometer. Anytime a 1 is not in the thermometer, it's got to be at the bulb. And we should be able to work out the rest here by process of elimination. So there's only 1 digit left in the top row. So that's going to have to be, let's see, it'll have to be a 1, 2, it's going to have to be a 3. Right there. So that's going to solve this 3, 6 down here. Will have to be a 6. That's going to make this one a 7. Let's just go over what do we still need in this box here. We still need a 2 and a 6. And we know from this 6 that this is going to have to be 2. This is going to have to be the 6. There's only 1 digit left in this column, and let's see what it is. It's going to be a 4. Okay, there's only 2 digits left in this column. That's going to be a 2 and a 3. I don't quite see how to resolve that just yet, but let's look around here. Let's see, what are we missing? Okay, so we can see here in this cell is a 3, 4. That gets resolved by this 4 over here. So this is going to have to be 3. That's going to make this one 4. It's going to make this one a 2. It's going to make this one a 4. And that's going to make this 2 is going to force this one to be a 1. This is going to be a 2. That'll make this a 3, a 2, a 1, and a 3, and then let's just check our answer here. Yay, okay, we did it. So that's how you solve the Thermo Sudoku. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully it wasn't too difficult. But thank you very much.